LMSs were designed and born over 35 years ago for the sole purpose of managing regulatory compliance. It still hasn't changed for employee LMSs. Their core feature or their core use inside of organizations is to ensure organizations stay out of trouble by making their employees take certain training at a certain time. So it seems simple that a learning management system would manage courses and be able to assign that as mandatory learners to learners by a specific due date. And that's what a simple compliance is. But it gets much more complex than that, because compliance, though it can be driven by the company itself, is often driven by external influences like regulatory bodies at the state, local, province, or national level. And those organizations sometimes simultaneously have different standards that have to be met in terms of regulatory compliance. So the same individual or the same job role may have different compliance requirements depending on where that job role is located. Well, it gets very complex in a hurry, with 50 different states, for example, having 50 different rule sets, as well as the federal government having different rule sets all simultaneously. LMSs need to be able to manage that. They need to be able to know from a learner's user profile certain things about them to automate the LMS compliance, the assignment of training. So if I move from one role to another or one location to another, my compliance requirements need to automatically change. So the next time I log into the LMS, or the notifications that I get immediately at that point will all be tuned to pushing me to make sure that I complete my training, or the learner completes their training in the allotted time. Why do you want to do this? Well, typically in regulated industries, when something goes wrong, somebody gets hurt or even worse, then regulators come in and they want to be able to have an audit trail of who was around that person. Were they properly trained? Were they trained in the mandatory regulatory training that they had to take? What version of the training did they take? How can we be sure? All of that is wrapped up into regulatory compliance. If you're in complicated industries like pharmaceutical or transportation or nuclear, for example, then those requirements are really the bane of your existence, of trying to ensure that you maintain that regulatory status quo. So that is regulatory compliance in learning management systems, the very origin of why we're all here.